Hi, and welcome to the Wire Podcast. I'm Kay Thompson, Chief of Public Relations for the Department of Corrections.
And I'm Les West, the Administrator of Marketing. We have two special guests today to talk about a myriad of topics that impact our prison population.
Yes, so we have Chief of Offender Advocacy, Nicole Flemming, and Administrative Operations, Tanya Parker. Thank you guys for joining us.
And Tanya, one of the things under your umbrella is food. That is why we're here in this particular setting today in the cafeteria to talk about what we're doing to make the dining experience better for our prison population.
Yes. And so this really was the changes that your group is implementing kind of come off of, or do very much come off of, the inmate surveys that we did in November. So can you explain, Nicole, like how the surveys worked and all the follow-up conversations that you had as well?
See, surveys were something that we essentially developed and pushed out back in November of 2023, and it allowed everybody in custody to essentially rate different categories as it affected their life in prison.
And while we did well in some categories, religious services, programming, we didn't do well in food, which is not a huge surprise. What's the biggest criticism?
Well, that's a great question. So in order to find out what exactly was driving the low variables, we went back and we had deeper conversations, what we called guided conversations. And we specifically asked, what was it about food service that's making it weak, that you would like to see improvements in? Is it seasoning? Is it preparation? Variety. And so with that data coming back, we were able to essentially develop sort of a plan that we put into her lap here and with her team.
I know that this was a topic of discussion for a while before we started, and we created a new plan. The master menu that our on-staff dietitian had created was lacking quite a bit. And so explain to us the process that went through to create this new menu.
After we received back the inmate surveys of everything, we started really diving into the master menu. The master menu is on a 5-week rotation. And so the last time it was signed off on by a dietitian was 2 years ago. So that menu, inmates have been eating the same menu for the last 2 years in a 5-week rotation. It's a very bland diet and it's very repetitive. So we're looking at it to expand variation, give them more options, and adding seasoning back into. It's a very low salt diet, I would call it more of a heart healthy diet. Not for sure if that's a bad thing, but it doesn't give them any flavor. The appearance of it.
And as one inmate told me, to eat that for one day is fine. But if you're incarcerated for 10, 20, 30 years, right, over and over again, it's obviously going to be unpleasant.
Very unpleasant. If you're eating the same 5-week rotation for 24 months. I mean, that's what they've been doing. We have hired a nutritionist. He was an executive chef for 20 years. Wow. He's worked at the Oklahoma Heart Hospital, and he's looking at our menu and bringing us some new recipes to look at.
And we are also getting inmate input. So we're not creating a menu based on what the employees think, but right, we're taking their input as well.
Yep. So my team, every time we're in a facility, these are the conversations that we have, we bring back to the table for her team. But also we're doing food tasting, so wine taste testing. OCI has prepared for us different variations, one of which they already have, plus a couple of other variations, and letting them choose. So it's not something that we want to go make the decision for them. We really want their voice brought into this.
Is that the inmate council who participates in this?
It is the inmate council. They already work very closely with our teams. They were a large part of development of the guided conversations and helping us pinpoint what exactly it was that was driving those low numbers. And so I felt it important that they're the leaders of their facilities, that they had the chance to step up and again be that voice.
We were recently at Joseph Harp, and we spoke to a couple of inmates, Luke and Jacob, about their experience with food and their experience with the surveys. And so let's just listen to what they have to say.
We had an amazing
With
meal
sliders
yesterday.
yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday we had like.
It's terrible when the best meal comes in a package, though. It's good, but
I will say this: yesterday they served an amazing meal at lunch. And typically when the slot buckets are going out, they have so many slot buckets, and the kitchen staff will say, "Hey, this costs us so much money because the food's bland, it doesn't taste good, and it's gross half the time." But yesterday they served this meal, and I heard the staff saying, "I have half of one bucket for slop, which is going to save me so much money, and it's mostly wrappers that I can go throw in the trash."
Yeah.
So, yeah, we are seeing some changes start to come place, and we're appreciative of that. Like that's a huge thing. Food is, what did Baptists love to say? When you meet, you eat. So, and there's something behind that I think, I know everybody does it. You get together and you're like, hey, let's talk. Let's make a spread. Let's make food. Let's eat. So,
food is best enjoyed with people.
Food is best enjoyed with people.
It's a source of fellowship.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when it's good food.
And when it's good food, less waste, higher morale because now people are full.
Yeah.
They've actually eaten. So it's an all around just.
I've been on the vegetarian diet since 2006 because of the quality of the meat in the chow hall, and this is the first time since then that I'm considering switching over to the regular diet because I'm not opposed to eating meat. I just want to be healthy.
I was on him yesterday. You gonna get off that now? You gonna get off that? He's like, I'm thinking about it.
They're eating sliders. I got to think of peanut butter.
You're like, yeah, that looks good.
It was a smell of wrapper. Chief Flemming was telling us that she was pushing for like Taco Tuesdays and Hamburger Fridays, and we appreciate. We're like, yeah, let's get some food that we all want to eat.
A little variety.
Let's get some variety. Oatmeal every single morning. Think about that. Like it's not just the taste. There was a documentary years ago, and I won't say it because I don't know about. But it showed a guy eating a single meal from one place for 30 days, and he was sick at the end. He couldn't even stomach the food. So if you feed the same thing all the time, your morale drops. It's hard to stomach it. I know this. We know this personally. Yeah. But oatmeal, you have bland oatmeal every single morning, and after a while, you just don't eat it. Like you just stop eating breakfast. So it's like going back to your question, it's been good to see some of the changes that we're already seeing slowly but implemented. And it shows the commitment. Like that's what we were talking about, just the commitment of everything. And I think that's how you get people more on board when they're like, oh, really are changing lives. They really are like this is a good thing.
The taste test, is that going to be at every facility or is there just select facilities?
We didn't do every facility just because of time constraints. We don't want to take too long to get this initiative moving. So we did pick a few very strategically. Mabel Bassett, one female population. It's important to be diverse. And then we also have a minimum center and then a community correctional center, which will be John Lilly and Lawton Community Correctional Center.
Let's talk about rollout because I know the inmates are anxious for change.
So rollout is going to take a little bit. We've made some minor changes, more seasoning, added some sugar back into the oatmeal.
Please stop you right there for a second because we had a conversation earlier about the oatmeal. Specifically, the waste. The Department of Corrections is losing money, taxpayer money, because of the food not being, in the opinion of many, not edible.
Absolutely. And so that was the first thing that we looked at was the waste. What are we wasting? What are we having to discard just because nobody's eating the food? Mm-hmm. Oatmeal was one of the number one things that came out there. So that's one thing that we have done is if you're not diabetic, adding some sugar, a little bit of fruit, something to that oatmeal to make it more appetizing.
Palatable, yeah.
Not quite so bland.
Right, not so bland. Then the rollout will take us a while for the new, because there's a process, the new menu, there's a process that we have to follow. We have contracted with a dietitian. She's not on payroll, it's a contract. And so once we get a recipe that we think, okay, this will be good, we send it to our dietitian, let her look at it, let her review it, make sure it fits all of the dietary needs, the caloric count, the salt, the sugar. There's a lot that we have to think about.
And the general public doesn't realize all the considerations that take place when making a menu, different religions, different ethnic backgrounds. It's complicated.
Absolutely. It is very complicated. And so we want to take our time. We don't want to rush it. So right now, what we're doing is making the small changes that we can make without having to change the entire menu. And part of that was adding seasoning, adding a little bit of sugar, adding a little bit more salt, and
It's amazing how far a little whisper of cinnamon can go, right?
right. And then also, on our spot buys, being more, looking for some other things. So we can do some spot buys and give them some special menus that would fit the caloric needs.
Chef's Choice Day.
Exactly.
We did bring in, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a Taco Tuesday and Hamburger Friday.
So on Chef Choice, they can do that. And so they have been doing that. And some will do it on a Tuesday. It just depends on how the menu falls onto the Chef Choice day.
And another consideration is each facility is different in that some may have 300 inmates, some may have 2,000.
Right. Exactly.
So when you're preparing a menu for that many,
Right. Quite different.
And I think a lot of that, so the recipe and how to feed that many people off of one recipe takes some training.
It does.
And I think we are training our staff.
We are. One lady is going out and training all staff. All new staff are going through new employee orientation, which is already set up with DOC. However, we have secured one full day. If you're food service staff, you sit with a food service trainer and you go over everything that is needed, from temperature of the food to the temperature of cooling it down, putting it back in the fridge, how to reheat it, all your safety. That's one thing that we did lack. And I believe that this will help that. And then we're going to turn around and also teach the inmates, because most of the inmates are the cooks.
Right.
It's not staff cooking the food. It is inmates cooking the food. Staff are supervising. And so getting the recipes back in front of the inmates, it was kind of mind-boggling to me when I would go out there and say, "Can I see your recipe book?" And they were like, what recipe book?
Yeah.
we improvise.
You're right. And so they do have recipe books out there. And so we've asked them to look at it, to pull it back out, review it. Maybe they know how to cook that food. Maybe they don't. If you're new into the kitchen, you're not going to know. Somebody that's been cooking the same menu for 2 years, we'll know how to cook that menu.
Right.
So as the chief of inmate advocacy, what is your message to the men and women who will be benefiting from these changes?
First and foremost, just thank you for using your voice. Thank you for being honest, bringing this to our attention. We don't know what we don't know. And so being able to elevate this and take care of you it's very important to us. We want to be intentional with everything that we're doing. And I think that everybody here wants what's best for you. So again, bringing your voice to the table makes all the difference.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you guys would like to add about the food?
Just keep letting us know what's going wrong with it. I mean,
And right.
right. Yeah. Let me know if it's good. I've heard good. I've heard bad. I hear it's getting better. So,
And we'll be visiting. So my team is consistently in facilities. We'll be visiting. Let us know when we're out there. Tell us, what do you see that's better? Is there something that's still lacking? I mean, again, we don't know what we don't know. So
absolutely. And same with us. Food service staff is out there. My team's out there. The food service operations unit is out there. We are asking, and we're taking the feedback as well.
And kindness goes a long way. Be gentle, right?
Well, and I think it is important to just kind of reiterate that, we did listen. This came off of the surveys. Like, we do care about their opinions. So just keep giving us that feedback.
Absolutely.
that's great.
Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching.
Until next time.